Dealers test outboards before delivery, but they're not checking what you think they are. They're using tricks that save hours of troubleshooting, extend engine life by years, and prevent warranty nightmares. These aren't manufacturer recommendations. They're shop floor secrets mechanics passed down. And today, you're getting every one of them. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact tricks dealers use on their own boats, the ones they charge you to fix later, and why they'll never advertise this knowledge. Some of these methods contradict what's printed in owners' manuals. Others exploit loopholes in warranty coverage. All of them work. So let's expose what really happens behind the service counter. The cold start ritual. Before any new four-stroke leaves the dealership floor, technicians do something the manual doesn't mention. They start it cold, let it idle for exactly 2 minutes, then kill it. Wait 5 minutes, start again. They repeat this 3 times before the customer ever turns the key. The reason has everything to do with how piston rings seat during initial break-in. Modern outboards from Yamaha, Mercury, and Suzuki use tight tolerances, sometimes as precise as 0.003 of an inch between the piston and cylinder wall. Those first heat cycles matter more than the next 300 hours combined. When metal expands and contracts in controlled intervals, the rings conform to microscopic imperfections in the cylinder bore. Service bulletins from multiple manufacturers confirm early heat cycles prevent break-in failures. But the information stays buried in technical documentation dealers receive and customers never see. One technician working with a high-volume dealership mentioned they've avoided 12 warranty claims in 2 years just by implementing this ritual. Engines that skip it tend to return around the 50-hour mark with oil consumption issues that shouldn't exist on a machine that new. What makes this trick effective is its simplicity. No special tools required, no modifications to factory settings, just controlled thermal cycling that most owners never think to perform. Compression tests performed at the 200-hour mark consistently show tighter numbers on engines broken in this way compared to those that weren't. The gaps might seem small, 1 or 2 pounds per square inch, but over years of operation, those small differences compound into significant variations in fuel efficiency and component wear. But controlled thermal cycling is just the beginning. There's another trick dealers use that directly affects how your engine performs on the water. And it involves a component most owners assume is already optimized from the factory: the propeller swap game. When a customer orders a boat with a 300 horsepower engine, dealers always test run it with the stock propeller, then immediately swap it for something else before delivery. Not because the stock propeller is defective or poorly designed, because it's rarely optimal for that specific boat, load distribution, and intended use. Manufacturers spec propellers for average conditions. They assume a mid-range boat weight, typical gear load, and operation in mixed water conditions. But your boat isn't average. The difference between optimal and factory spec can mean 800 revolutions per minute at wide open throttle, which translates directly to fuel economy, top speed, and engine longevity. Dealers know a Mercury Verado 400 horsepower engine with a 26-pitch inertia propeller will hit 68 miles per hour on the global positioning system, but only if the boat weighs under 6,000 pounds and runs in salt water. Add 500 pounds of gear or switch to freshwater operation, and that same propeller overloads the engine, forcing it to work harder to achieve the same results. The testing process involves running the boat with multiple propellers, monitoring engine revolutions per minute at wide open throttle, and finding the combination that hits the manufacturer's recommended range. For most four-strokes, that range sits between 5,400 and 6,000 revolutions per minute, too low, and the engine lugs, creating excessive heat and strain on internal components, too high, and you're over-revving, which accelerates wear on the valve train and increases fuel consumption without meaningful gains in performance. Smart dealers test 3 propellers minimum. They document the results, compare performance across different load scenarios, and select the propeller that provides the best balance of hole shot, cruise efficiency, and top-end speed. Then, they charge you $800 for the upgrade. The part that most customers don't realize is that this testing was already factored into your purchase price. The dealer didn't suddenly decide to do you a favor by optimizing your setup. They built the cost of testing and the replacement propeller into your quote from the beginning. This creates an interesting dynamic where customers think they're paying extra for optimization, when in reality they're paying for something that should have been standard practice. The dealer presents it as an added value service, and technically it is, but only because manufacturers refuse to spec propellers with enough granularity to account for real-world variables. The result is a system where dealers profit from fixing a problem that shouldn't exist in the first place, and customers remain unaware that factory propellers are essentially educated guesses rather than precise matches. What complicates this further is that propeller selection isn't a one-time decision. As boats age, accumulate gear, and undergo modifications, the optimal propeller changes. Hull bottom paint adds weight and increases friction. Electronics installations shift the center of gravity. Even something as simple as switching from aluminum to stainless steel affects performance characteristics. Dealers know this, which is why they recommend repitching every few years. Whether that recommendation is driven by genuine performance concerns or the profit margin on propeller sales is something each owner has to evaluate for themselves. The deeper you look into propeller selection, the more you realize it's less about the propeller itself and more about matching the entire propulsion system to a specific set of operating conditions. But there's another system on your outboard that dealers pay attention to. One that operates invisibly until the day it fails, usually when you're miles from shore. And when that system fails, the repair bill jumps from manageable to catastrophic, all because of something that could have been prevented with a $3 can of spray, the hidden corrosion defense. Before any four-stroke goes into salt water, certain dealers coat every external bolt, clamp, and electrical connection with marine-grade anti-corrosion spray. Not just the visible components, but the hidden brackets behind the cowl, the steering linkage under the mounting bracket, and the fuel line clamps tucked into tight spaces most owners never see. The reason this matters becomes apparent 5 years later when you need a steering cable replaced or a fuel line serviced. Those untreated bolts will have corroded to the point where they no longer respond to normal removal methods. What should be a $200 cable replacement becomes an $800 ordeal because technicians have to drill out seized fasteners, re-tap threads, and install helicoil inserts. The extra time and parts turn a straightforward task into a multi-hour project. Dealerships using this preventive spray trick consistently finish jobs faster than those who skip it. One technician, working with a dealership that specializes in evinrude engines, mentioned they've been applying anti-corrosion treatments since 2005. In nearly 2 decades, they've never had a single corrosion-related warranty denial. Dealers who skip this step regularly fight with manufacturers over warranty coverage. The spray itself costs less than $10 per can and covers approximately 15 to 20 outboards. Preventing a seized bolt with 30 cents worth of spray seems like basic business logic, yet many dealerships still don't implement it as standard practice. Boats that receive anti-corrosion treatments last longer, require less invasive repairs, and maintain better resale value. And there's another preservation technique dealers use that's even more important, especially for engines that sit unused for months at a time. This one involves your fuel system, and getting it wrong means you're looking at 4-figure repair bills before you even leave the dock next season. Before we continue with the next trick, let me ask you something. Have you ever brought your outboard in for what seemed like a simple repair, only to get hit with a bill 3 times higher than quoted? Drop a comment below and tell me what happened, because I guarantee one of these dealer tricks is connected to why that repair cost so much. And if you're already seeing how these techniques could have saved you money on past service visits, hit the like button so this reaches other boat owners who need to know what's really happening in dealer service bays. The algorithm pushes videos that get early engagement, so liking now helps more people discover information dealers don't want widely known. Subscribe if you want the rest of these insider secrets, because what's coming next involves your fuel system and a storage method that prevents $1,200 spring repairs, the fuel system purge. Before long-term storage, most dealers don't just add stabilizer and call it finished. They run the engine until the fuel system is nearly empty, fog the cylinders with protective oil, then add treated fuel and run it again for exactly 3 minutes. The first run purges untreated fuel from the vapor separator and high-pressure fuel pump. the two locations where ethanol-blended gasoline does the most damage during storage. Ethanol attracts moisture, and that moisture combines with fuel to create a corrosive mixture that degrades rubber components and clogs precision orifices in fuel injectors. By running the system nearly dry before adding stabilized fuel, dealers ensure maximum stabilizer concentration with minimal ethanol exposure. The second run distributes that stabilized fuel throughout the entire system. Engines stored this way restart instantly after 6 months of inactivity. Engines stored with just stabilizer added to a full tank tend to return in spring with clogged injectors and check engine lights. The repairs typically run around $1,200 because cleaning fuel injectors on modern four-strokes requires removal of the entire fuel rail assembly. Technical service bulletins confirm this two-step storage method, but the information stays buried in documentation most owners never access. One bulletin from 2019 specifically outlined the double-run procedure for Mercury engines, but it appeared on page 14 of a 40-page service update that dealers received and customers didn't. Dealerships charge around $150 for professional winterization services. What customers are actually receiving is this two-step purge process that prevents expensive spring repairs. But fuel system preservation only matters if the engine's cooling system remains functional. And there's a diagnostic trick dealers use to predict water pump failures weeks before they actually happen. They listen, and what they hear tells them everything they need to know. The water pump sound. Most owners replace water pumps based on hour meters. Yamaha recommends every 300 hours, Suzuki suggests every 500, Honda splits the difference at 400. Dealers who know what they're doing ignore these schedules entirely. They replace water pumps based on sound changes that occur 20 to 50 hours before total failure. The trick lies in knowing what normal sounds like for a specific engine at a specific hour count. A Honda 250 horsepower engine with 280 hours produces a slightly different acoustic signature than one with 320 hours. Even when both are functioning within normal parameters. The change is subtle, a minor pitch shift at idle, a different harmonic when the engine reaches 3,000 revolutions per minute, or a pressure variation at the telltale stream that's barely perceptible unless you know what to listen for. Experienced technicians develop this auditory database through years of exposure to hundreds of engines at various stages of wear. They hear the early warning signs that precede impeller failure, the faint whine indicating vane tips are starting to wear, the pressure drop suggesting the housing is developing grooves, the slight rattle hinting that the drive key is wearing thin. These acoustic clues appear well before any visual symptoms manifest, long before temperature gauges show overheating, and far ahead of when the telltale stream actually stops flowing. Catching water pump degradation at this early stage allows dealers to schedule replacement during routine service visits, rather than responding to emergency breakdowns on the water. They swap the pump, charge $400 for parts and labor, and the customer never experiences a temperature spike or cooling system failure. The engine continues operating reliably because the failing component was intercepted before it could cause secondary damage. This preventive approach stands in stark contrast to how most owners manage water pump maintenance. They wait for the recommended hour interval, or worse, they wait for symptoms of failure to appear. By the time the temperature gauge shows overheating, damage may already be occurring to the power head. Aluminum cylinder heads begin warping at temperatures above 220 degrees Fahrenheit. Piston ring clearances expand beyond specification. Gasket material degrades and loses sealing capability. What could have been a $400 pump replacement becomes a $1,500 repair, involving head resurfacing, new gaskets, and piston inspection. One Yamaha technician mentioned replacing over 200 water pumps using the acoustic prediction method. Not one customer ever saw a temperature spike or experienced a cooling system failure. The entire strategy revolves around preventing the emergency before it occurs, which keeps boats on the water and customers satisfied with service quality. But teaching customers to recognize these acoustic warning signs would eliminate future service visits, which explains why dealers keep this knowledge internal. The sounds aren't complex or difficult to identify once you know what you're listening for, but without proper training, most owners can't distinguish between normal operational sounds and the subtle changes that indicate approaching failure. Water pump impellers fail gradually, not suddenly. The wear pattern is predictable, progressive, and entirely preventable if caught early. Acoustic diagnosis represents just one aspect of dealer knowledge that remains hidden. There's another technique that affects every new engine, one that determines whether your four-stroke will run clean for decades or burn oil from day one. And it directly contradicts what's written in your owner's manual, the real break-in method. Manufacturer break-in instructions typically say, vary the throttle for the first 10 hours. What they don't specify is how to vary it, how often or in what pattern. Dealers fill that knowledge gap with a precise sequence. They run new outboards at 2,000 revolutions per minute for 2 minutes, 3,000 for 2 minutes, 4,000 for 1 minute, then back to idle. Repeat continuously for the entire first tank of fuel. The reason this specific pattern works has everything to do with how piston rings seat under varying load conditions. Rings don't seat during steady-state operation. They seat when cylinder pressure fluctuates, forcing the ring face against the cylinder wall with different intensities across short time intervals. This creates a lapping effect where microscopic high spots get worn down. A Mercury 300 Verado broken in using this variable load method seats rings by 8 hours of operation. The same engine broken in with casual varied throttle might still show oil consumption at 50 hours. Dealers who sell pre-owned engines check for proper ring seating during their inspection process. Engines showing clean compression across all cylinders command 15% higher prices than those with uneven compression numbers. What makes this frustrating for owners is that manufacturer instructions could easily be more specific. Instead of vague guidance to vary throttle, they could provide exact revolution per minute targets and time intervals. Yet it remains unstated in owner documentation, while dealers quietly apply it to every engine they deliver. Now, even perfectly broken-in engines can develop problems if there's an underlying electrical issue, and dealers have a test for that too. This one takes 3 minutes to perform and predicts failures 6 months before they happen, the voltage drop test. Before delivery, certain dealers test voltage drop across every connection in the charging system. The procedure involves connecting a multimeter between various points and measuring voltage while the engine runs at specific revolution per minute settings. A properly functioning Suzuki 250 horsepower engine should read 13.8 volts at the battery terminals and 13.6 volts at the engine control module connector. Anything below 13.4 volts at the module indicates excessive resistance somewhere in the wiring path. Finding the resistance point during pre-delivery testing takes 3 minutes. Fixing it takes another 10 minutes and costs perhaps $5. Ignoring it means the owner returns 3 months later with a check engine light and intermittent electrical problems that are difficult to reproduce. The repair bill jumps to $600. Dealers implementing this test as standard practice see half the warranty claims of dealerships that skip it. Yet despite the obvious benefits, many dealerships still don't perform this test because it adds a few minutes to delivery preparation. Voltage drop testing represents preventive maintenance at its most effective, catching problems before symptoms appear, and fixing them when repairs are simple and cheap. But there's one more dealer secret that matters more than all the others combined. And this one, they actively hide because it gives you the same information they use to decide which engines to fix immediately and which ones to let fail: the bulletin system. The bulletin system. The most valuable trick dealers use isn't a technique or procedure, it's information. Technical service bulletins get released by every manufacturer when patterns emerge across their product lines. Steering failures on 2021 Mercury V8 engines. Overheating issues on early Yamaha F300 models. Propeller hub slippage on Suzuki 175 horsepower engines. Dealers receive these bulletins months before recalls get announced. Sometimes years before. They know which engines have defects, which components are likely to fail, and which repairs should be performed preemptively. Smart dealers use this information to contact customers with affected engines and schedule service appointments before failures occur. Other dealers wait for customers to experience problems, then bill them for repairs they knew were coming. The economics are complicated. Warranty work pays lower labor rates than customer pay repairs. A dealer who fixes a known defect under warranty makes perhaps $80 per hour in labor reimbursement. The same repair, performed as customer pay work, generates $120 to $150 per hour. The financial incentive points toward letting problems develop rather than preventing them. One technical service bulletin from 2023 detailed fuel pump failures on Honda 150 horsepower engines built between March and September of that year. The failure pattern was consistent. Engines would run fine for approximately 150 hours. Then suddenly experience vapor lock and complete fuel delivery stoppage. The fix involved replacing the entire fuel pump assembly with an updated version. Dealers who received this bulletin had a choice. They could contact every customer with an affected engine and schedule replacement under warranty coverage, or they could wait for failures to occur, diagnose the problem as if they'd never heard of it before, and charge for diagnostic time while the warranty claim was processed. Some dealers chose the ethical path. Others saw an opportunity to generate revenue. The bulletin system exists because manufacturers recognize that no production process is perfect. Defects emerge, patterns develop, and solutions get discovered through real-world operation. Sharing this information through bulletins allows dealers to address issues before they escalate. But the system only works if dealers actually use the information to benefit customers, rather than exploit it for profit. For boat owners, the challenge is that technical service bulletins aren't easily accessible. Manufacturers don't publish them on public websites. They're distributed through dealer networks using secure portals that require authentication. Average owners have no way to know which bulletins exist, or whether their engine is affected by known defects. This creates an information asymmetry, where dealers know about problems customers don't. The best dealers treat bulletins as early warning systems that help them protect customer investments. The worst dealers treat them as future revenue sources that shouldn't be revealed until absolutely necessary. The only way customers can level this playing field is by asking specifically about technical service bulletins when bringing engines in for service. Ask if any bulletins apply to your engine's model, year, and serial number. Request copies of relevant bulletins. This forces dealers to acknowledge the existence of known issues, rather than pretending every problem requires extensive diagnostic work to identify. Now that you know these methods exist and can request them or replicate them yourself, drop a comment below with which trick surprised you most, or if your dealer has ever used any of these on your engine. If this could save you from a future repair bill, hit like and subscribe for more dealer secrets. And if you're thinking about buying used, watch our last video on why outboards are suddenly cheap and the trap buyers keep falling into.